For the past 10 years, I've been conducting expeditions, documenting chronicles, and interviewing people pertaining to the subject of Sasquatch. With over 20 years worth of hardcore backcountry expedition experience into the most remote regions, I've tracked and studied various North American species that have had little to no exposure to civilization. I am a student of many disciplines, trained in the art of tracking by a Cree Nations elder and a military sniper. My skill sets include camouflage techniques using the terrain and its features to mask ground movement, obstacle crossing, camping positions, effective observation, camouflage penetration, counter-surveillance, survival, evasion, and escape techniques. In 2006, my team and I publicly showed 2 separate crystal-clear Bigfoot videos I personally filmed, which we used to petition the Canadian government for species protection of Bigfoot. The petition was certified and tabled in the Canadian House of Commons. The media response was enormous, with hundreds of newspaper, television networks, radio stations, and websites that receptively presented our work across the globe. It was our goal to reach out to the masses about why our group was beginning the struggle for species recognition and protection. Good day, thank you for joining us for this episode of Bigfoot North. I'm going to be going through a few different things this episode. This episode is just going to be me talking. We are going to be having guests on. My former co-host Jeff Meldrum is going to be in my next episode of. And this is Bigfoot North Radio. I'm gonna stick with that terminology. We're only doing 6 episodes. As I said, Jeff Meldrum will be on the show next week. He'll be discussing what's new. I've got a few surprises for him. He's actually, I'm sending him copies, raw footage of some of my Sasquatch footage that he's requested because he would like to do some tests. I believe it's with M.K. Davis, someone who's done some work on the Patterson Gimlin film. So I've always been very free and open with people that ask for my footage. Believe it or not, and I've always been very free and open with people that ask me for my footage. I've been very transparent, and that's an issue that we're going to get into in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the episode. So first it'll be Jeff Meldrum, then it'll be either Randy Brisson, who is such an amazing guy. He just so immensely impressed me, and I was astounded by one of his Sasquatch photographs, and something that was really interesting about Randy was, I don't even know how I came across him. He just emailed me on Facebook or something, and and I saw that photograph that he has of a Sasquatch, and I was quite intrigued by it because it really matches the lack of sagittal crest and temporalis muscle that's in my video 5 Sasquatch, the one with the big crest on his head, and more matches the what I assume is the female that's in my video 4, who has very flat sagittal crest and almost virtually non-existent, at least from the perspectives that I film, temporalis muscle, which again is that muscle that peaks up. So anyways, I met Randy. I had some really incredible success with him. He's 100% legit, and even fortunately we did a lot of filming. We were putting some stuff together for a potential TV show. So I went out into the wilderness and I took John Betternuggle with me and introduced these 2 guys, and man, they are just like peas and carrots. They're really good friends now. And again, what was the first thing if you see anything about Randy Brisson online, there's a whole bunch of people in the Sasquatch community, and I can't even believe we call it the Sasquatch community. It's the Sasquatch, what's the opposite of community? People are all trying to cut their own throats, and the Sasquatch competition, where it's everybody does whatever they can to deface or defile everybody else, and it's not, nowhere is it better illustrated than this wonderful human being, Randy Brisson, who I introduced John Betternuggle to him. John was already told by the Sasquatch community that he's just an awful person and Randy's a hoaxer and all this kind of stuff. And for the first time ever, John Betternuggle, I consider him, he's a mentor of mine. He's a great man. One of the most amazing things about him is he just doesn't get angry. He's not a profane guy. He thinks he gets angry, but he doesn't. He doesn't know. He never gets hostile. He never smashes, and he never swears. And I'll tell you, he came so close to swearing when he talked about how other people from the Sasquatch community, people specifically that he mentioned that he knew well, that were saying terrible things about Randy, calling him a liar, calling him a hoaxer. And Randy's got incredible footage, and now John, since he went out to the field with Randy and worked with Randy, he just, it's been very impressive. And so Randy Brisson Beyond. He was also, I recommended Survivor Man Les Stroud do an episode with Randy, so he did. I don't remember what the episode's called, but it was in season 2 of Survivor Man Bigfoot, and Randy Brisson's in that. So we'll talk about the episode with Les Stroud. We'll talk about it's so funny. I can't stress how it blows my mind how these TV shows and networks want to come out and they want to be quick and easy and get it done and have great success. It just doesn't work that way. It's so much time, so much preparation, and when it comes to Sasquatch, it's so hard to get your success. And TV shows are just so difficult about that. Les went out with Randy for probably 3 days, what he does with me, and commits, and he works hard, and I have nothing but good things to say about Les Stroud. But to get any kind of success in 3 days is tremendously difficult. The reason I had success in that short a time period is there's a certain time of year where I get the best, where Sasquatch interact with me the best. And I should talk about that for a second too, why there's really another level that I've gotten to. A couple little secrets about what you really need to be successful with Sasquatch research. And this is so important. This is the basis for everything. If you don't have a passion and a love for the wilderness, if you don't have an incredible, immense understanding of the wilderness that we have, that Sasquatch survive within, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get anything. One of the primary things that I do, besides the tracking, is I study as best I can. And again, it's kind of like a jack of all. You can't be a master of the elk or the bears or the mountain lions. You just study as best you can, but I really make it a husbandry. And I love the wilderness. I love tracking. I love the species, the plants, the animals, the whole survival aspect of it. The wilderness is just beautiful, and I absolutely adore and love the wilderness. That's one thing anybody should have, that knew me, said that I was retiring from Sasquatch, knew damn well. And I didn't say I was retiring from Sasquatch. I just said I was retiring from all this stuff that's been going on, and that's really the publicity. I will, till I'm a crippled old man, be going back into the wilderness. I love the wilderness. I love the birds. I love all the species. And if you don't have that love, if you don't have that passion, you have nothing similar. You have nothing in common with what I would refer to Sasquatch as the masters of the wilderness. They love the wilderness. They're patient in the wilderness. One of the things that they do that no other species does so well is they read nature. They read the ecology. They read the way the wind is moving, the way the sun is rising and changing the wind direction, how the birds move every day, and the animals and the deer react, and how squirrels will chirp a certain way when a lynx is coming on as compared to a wolverine or a mountain lion. They study all these things, and they can just sit back and listen to nature and read it the way we would get information reports, the smells, the sights, the sounds of all the other species. Really, to have success, the most difficult thing with me in the beginning was, if I was going to try to approach a Sasquatch without their knowledge, which I was able to do by doing some very specialized things that, that's a whole other video to get into, but to do that, I had to not make a squirrel chirp. I had to not make the birds move inappropriately. I had to not affect the deer. That level of necessity required to move in on this species is, nearly impossible. You have to have everything going in your favor, and it's absolutely the truth. One of the times I had my best success, video 4, was in a snowstorm, and I was only able to navigate through the snowstorm because of a creek. I followed the creek. You couldn't see your hand 2 feet in front of your face. You can't smell. The wind's blowing in all sorts of strange directions. You're not going to pick up any scent. And that's one of the reasons I had, one of the many reasons, one of the many things I did that really ensured tremendous success. But anyways, the point of all this is, if you don't love the wilderness, and that's the Sasquatch adore the wilderness. The Sasquatch, when we're walking on trails, they're hiding in the bush like it's a blanket. I even have levels of trees that they won't move past before they get close. Like they'll have like 4 layers of trees before they'll even get anywhere. A minimum of 4 layers. If a Sasquatch is coming up on you and he's got 4 layers of trees between you and him, that's impressive. Normally they'll have like 12 layers of trees in the beginning or more, not even approach you from those kind of vectors. But they love the wilderness. If you don't love the wilderness, there's no ability for you to build any kind of relationship on that. And that's primarily what I'll do in the beginning. Is I go into Sasquatch habitat, I identify the habitat by Sasquatch signs that they leave behind, and then I go and I film the birds, and I go watch what the wolves are doing, and I go study the elk, and I bring my camera out and I photograph stuff, not because it's my job, it's because it's really what I love. It's really what I'm just immensely passionate about. So for those of you that are out there doing Sasquatch research, really that's step one, is to really do the best you can, learn about the berries, go out in the wilderness and love it and enjoy it and appreciate it. And that's step one to any kind of success with Sasquatch. And if you don't get that, if that doesn't make any sense to you, if you think you can just go out in the wilderness and in a weekend have success, you don't know anything about it's a husbandry. I'll never stop learning. Every time I go out into the wilderness, there's always something new to learn. And even with 20 years worth of hardcore backcountry wilderness experience that I have, it's just the very beginning, and it's just so much. But it starts that love, starts the passion. That's the beginning of it all. And if you're going to do this, if you're doing Sasquatch research, if you can't make that kind of commitment, my goodness, I mean, tracking. If you track a species for 5 years, you just really start getting the hang of it and understanding it. Like you go talk to guys who hunt whitetail bucks. Man, it takes a long time before you can really get good at it. And I'm talking about whitetail bucks that have a tolerance for civilization, which I found that Sasquatch, similar to what they've learned with the caribou. Caribou have like a 17-kilometer buffer they keep between themselves and civilization, which is in the end essential for their survival. Again, a species I've studied a lot and I really am passionate about. I think they're beautiful and amazing creatures, and it's so sad the way they're being wiped out. But the Sasquatch clearly have that same buffer, have that same space, and it's, you got to get out there to, you got to be hardcore and you got to go back. It's so much work. And that's what scares me, is who's doing this? Who's really getting out there and doing what needs to be done? And so that's where I am. That's where I'm at. That's why I'm so passionate about this. One of the reasons is I love my life. I love my family. I love my friends. And I go out there and risk that life. Hardcore backcountry, man, you go up the wrong mountain and you're stuck in an avalanche. You go do one of 100 things and get lost. You break your leg out in the wilderness. Forget about it. If you're in the city, in civilization, we're very, very close to advanced life support. I break my leg out in the wilderness, I have to get my ass out, and I'm most likely dead. Break your arm, it starts to bleed internally. You're days away from advanced life support. It's so very, very dangerous, and it's so much. You really shouldn't go out in the wilderness alone. It's very difficult. It's very hard on your body, and my gosh, so much I could talk about with that. But anyways, let's continue on. So I've got Jeff Meldrum, John Benego, Randy Brisson, Les Stroud will do a show. I can't believe people are just season 1 was amazing. Both episodes were incredible. And because of fake TV, I guess, people just didn't take it seriously, and that blew my mind. But anyways, we'll talk a little bit about season 2, the incredible success, and then that photograph. He took a photograph of the top of the head of a Sasquatch, and I'm astounded. There's a stupid picture of him. They say the video, somebody put up a video that says, look at the little Sasquatch in an episode of Les Stroud, and they say it's at Clem 2. I immediately looked at the photograph and recognized my terrain. It was my episode. It was actually the radium episode. I even knew they think that there's a little baby Sasquatch looking at him in the back, And oh my God, that is the most... It's not a baby Sasquatch, it's a tree that fell over and the roots sticking up. I mean, I know when that tree fell over. I know I know my habitat. I know this research that I've spent thousands of hours out there. I immediately recognized what it was and laughed about the way they thought it was a young Sasquatch, because there was actually a camera guy over in that direction and a camera guy on the other side and a bloody drone flying over top of us. We were surrounded by people at that moment. It was the last cutaway shots of him going up into the research site with me before they all left us alone. And to think that there was a young Sasquatch there just blew my mind. And again, people are talking about that when he actually filmed the top of the head of a Sasquatch. And all the circumstantial evidence that substantiates that that was a Sasquatch. I mean, it blows me away. And you have to understand too, with what I've been doing, so publicly, people know that I took out Les Stroud, Survivor Man, John Benernagel, PhD, and Jeff Meldrum. The John Benernagel, who had incredible success, he actually live interacted with the Sasquatch. That's all. The proof of it is all profound in the documentary Bigfoot North, and we substantiated it by a trackway, broken trees, and a foot stomp. The evidence is just tremendous and overwhelming. The Sasquatch was making like a sound. I actually will, and it was a young Sasquatch. His track was about, I think it was between 9 and 10 inches. So that's the track that we found, and a foot stomp that he did after he made that kind of sound. And again, that'll be in the Jeff Meldrum episode. Again, I got a surprise with that for Jeff Meldrum, so we'll talk about that in that episode. That'll be really cool. But again, those three people are the people that have publicly acknowledged that they've been out with me and the work they've done with me. If you think those are the only people, you're sorely mistaken. I've taken over a dozen primatologists, wildlife officers, biologists, and the only person who was non-accredited in some way was Survivor Man Les Stroud, and you certainly can't call him non-accredited because the man is immense. He's Survivor Man. Survivor TV was built on him. He's the godfather of survival. And anyways, but I've taken out all these people. Just it's those three that have allowed themselves to be publicly put out there. The other people have all been, and I'll quote, immensely impressed with the evidence and the interactions, the sightings. Like, it's just it blows my mind that a human being has been able to have. I feel honestly, after I did Bigfoot North, and I had all the success. I put the preview out there and did all that stuff with Les Stroud and all the videos and all the photos I've taken. Can you imagine, even for a second? I know there's many people that are obviously skeptical, obviously don't believe me. Can you imagine if I'm telling the truth? Because I am. Can you imagine? I've been here the whole time. I've been here since the beginning saying, don't take my word for it. You can find footage of me way back in, I think it was 2006, saying, don't take my word for it. I will take you out and show you a Sasquatch. I've been doing that with PhDs, with biologists, with wildlife officers, with pick the man. It doesn't, and that's why I chose Les Stroud. I thought he was the best guy in the world. I made it a point of getting a hold of Les Stroud. I chose Jeff Meldrum and John Benernagel because I thought they were the best and the best. I should mention too, this past year when I wasn't retired, this would be in late 2016 expeditions. Right now it's March 2017, so just before winter hit, it was actually my goal to take out Ian Redmond. Was in discussions and negotiations with him. That didn't work out because Ian Redmond got trampled by an elephant. You can look it up online. It's terrible. A man after he's the primatologist that took over Dian Fossey's research for gorillas. Dian Fossey is from the movie where she was in. The movie was made about her called Gorillas in the Mist. But he took over that research after and did a great job. And he's very famous. He's written books. He's a gorilla and elephant expert. But he had that accident where he was, it's amazing he wasn't more injured, but he was injured, and so I couldn't take him out on the expedition. Something very interesting from that too is, this is one thing you must know about wild animals and wilderness animals is everything's changing. And really intelligent animals like elephants, which is what happened to Ian Redmond, their behaviors are changing because of the interactions with people, because of their mindset, because of the evolution of how we're all interacting together, and man is everywhere. They're in it. And what happened with Ian Redmond was this elephant did something that had never been seen before. It charged over a certain distance, which it's never done, and it was, he's out there, he's an elephant expert with all these other elephant experts, and this incredible thing happens that's never happened before and recorded. It's never been seen, it's never been witnessed. They thought they were perfectly safe, and they weren't, and he got trampled by an elephant. The point is, with this, goes back to the wilderness, man. You never know. You could study bears your whole life, you could study Sasquatch your whole life, and you never know what that animal's been through, what it's learned in its interactions with human beings. The elephant that charged Ian Redmond could have it's a possibility, I'm just throwing it out there as a theory, had a lot of bad interactions with people. People don't like elephants coming around, someone chucked a spear at it, someone injured another one of its elephants, and it just had enough of people and responded in that fashion. And something to keep in mind when you're doing your research here in North America or anywhere, but when you're dealing with bears and moose and elk, and when you think you really know, it's not the rut, a moose won't charge and gore me, it's happened. It happens. To theoretically read a book and think you understand bears, it's a whole new ball game when you get out there, and everything is changing. The world right now, oh my gosh, if you don't get it, if you don't see, mankind is just almost like a virus in this planet, the way we're consuming and polluting, and we're everywhere. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing Sasquatch research. Don't think that the Sasquatch are going to react in a certain way. Don't think that even I always tell people this, I've had dogs my whole life, I'm a huge dog lover. And as an example, you can have a Rottweiler, and they can be sweethearts, they can be excellent, beautiful pet, or they could be a potentially aggressive, angry animal. Each individual is going to have its own personalities. I've had Rotties that females that'll go around puddles and try to keep their feet dry, and then males that'll charge through and get wet. The point is, even in dogs, you can see tremendous differences within even a same breed of personality. And that goes especially with, it goes with bears, it goes with mountain lions, and it certainly will go with Sasquatch. Sasquatch are very intelligent species, very in tune to their ecology, but individuals are very different. And I'll tell you something, I've been to research sites where I've worked hard, I've devoted myself to particular research sites, and there's a point where you realize this group is just not clicking with me. I just don't have chemistry with them. They just don't like me. I can't get an individual in this group to start interacting with me and taking my research to the next level. And if you can't do that, it's time to move on. The reason I had success in Nordegg, the reason I have tremendous success in radium, is there are individuals, or at least an individual that comes around, that's interested in me, that likes me, that finds me entertaining. Because if they don't find me entertaining and they're not interested in me, I'm done. The research is over. I can't go anywhere with that. So I've got to be that movie. I've got to be that thing that entertains the Sasquatch, and I have to have chemistry with an individual or individuals, and also the big male of the group has to tolerate my presence, because I'm telling you, people have talked about it a lot and think that they can handle it, but when in a Sasquatch troop, if you want to call them primates, they'd be in a troop. I like to even probably more accurately consider them a tribe, but in a Sasquatch troop, there's a dominant male, as far as I can see, and I think the similarities are chimpanzees and gorillas on different levels, but when it comes to the way gorillas have young males that grow up and take over the group naturally, and young males that are tolerated with the silverback, I think it's quite similar to that in my experience. But there's a dominant male, quite clearly, or dominant males in each Sasquatch group. If that dominant male doesn't tolerate me at least and allow me to be around, time to move on. Because when you're talking about the 17-inch track of this enormous Sasquatch that could weigh as much as 900 pounds and be 9 feet tall, and you're something he doesn't want around, believe me, I'll be the last one out there pissing him off and doing going into his habitat and messing with him, because oh my God, the power that these primates exhibit blows my mind. The tree breaks, the structures that I've seen, the boulders that they pick up and thrown, the trees that have been crushed over. It's becoming really vividly clear to me that the power that these primates exhibit is, they're double the size of a gorilla, and I know it's a scary statement, but I think they possibly might be double the strength of a gorilla. But anyways, we'll get more into that. So I apologize. I'm going to do some private videos, and I'm just having a lot of trouble with YouTube and the YouTube channel, and that's why I've been delayed with this video. But now I'm here. We're working it out, so we'll continue on with that. So now I'm going to talk really shortly. I'm going to do a private video about the DNA that I've worked on, but just real quick. I can do some quotes here because the media covered it, and I was in newspapers for it. But anyways, I'd like to talk about it really quickly here. If you are a geneticist, if you're somebody that has experience with nucleotide databases and full genome mapping, I'm probably putting my foot in my mouth here when I'm saying these things, but if you have this knowledge, I don't want to be doing DNA. I'm not the DNA guy. I do the tracking, I do the video work, I film, I write it, I produce it, I location scout it, and I study the wilderness. It's already way too much. So anyways, get into the DNA real quick. Again, I'm going to do a private video that'll get much more into it, but and I have a few working theories on why the DNA came back this way. But anyhow, so there were 6 comparisons in total. 3 they were doing to Homo sapiens, and what were the genetic? The 16S mitochondrial region, the HV1 sequence. So there were multiple different tests that they did, and so anyway, all 3 very disappointingly came back. All 3 matches from Homo sapien came back 100%, which was very disappointing. I felt this was the hair that I gathered on an episode of Survivor Man with Les Stroud. He took one hair and I took another hair, and I worked so hard. Oh my goodness! I didn't put a bloody hairnet on, but we worked so hard to keep. What I did was I took there's a thing that sticks to your clothes. It's called beggar's lice. I took big beggar's lice. It's probably not the appropriate name for them. It's what I was taught they were called. And I glued them to a tree to try to make it look somewhat natural. Instead of using some sort of brush or some sort of wire thing, I was using a piece of beggar's lice that was a large piece of beggar's lice that was stuck. You'll see it in Survivor Man, to a tree. And we got a hair from it. And I was very excited about it because the hair was there from apples that had been taken, which was just so exciting to me. But it turns out that the 300% matches, they became something that I was, in the end, I was holding that up, and I'll explain it to you why. And also keep in mind that there are probably many homogeneous species that might pass this universal DNA sequencing. Like there's a hobbit, the Homo florenziensis. Jeff Meldrum is going to kick my ass for Homo florenziensis is the name or something. But or even Neanderthals. If you had a Neanderthal today, he would probably pass. He would pass this this DNA test. So yeah, it's Homo florenziensis. Clearly a different species, as different from human beings as a Sasquatch would be, but they would, I mean, even all the geneticists I talked to, including the guy who did this test, said, yeah, Homo florenziensis, Neanderthals would most certainly pass the Homo sapien test. What the 3 tests proved that is so important is that the sample was not contaminated. It was only a small little hair that we got, that we had tested, but I was obviously very confident that it was something significant, and so I sent it in, had it tested. So if these 3 samples, these 3 tests against this genetic strain are conclusively at least 100% Homo sapien. Well, they say Homo sapien, but it could be some other species of Homo if Sasquatch fits that criteria, which I believe, based on this research, is something that I'll talk about a little further in the next DNA video. But anyways, and then we did the chimp comparison. So we did 3 chimpanzee comparisons. Now the first comparison came back on the universal 12S DNA as 99%. Again, substantiating that the test is not in any way contaminated. On the second test, which is very interesting, which is the 16S sequence. And the 16S sequence, I've done a few months worth of research on this, and the 16S sequence is considered extremely significant because the late great microbiologist and biophysicist Dr. Carl Woese said the 16S was the most important test when it came to human beings, chimpanzees, and Homo sapiens. And this test came back. Again, this was an important test because of the slow rates of evolution in this region of the genome. This test, which should most assuredly be 99%, came back 95%. Which, at this point, when I talk to geneticists, because I did talk to some geneticists, they almost hang up the phone on me. Because no Homo sapien in this test, in this very important test, no Homo sapien could show 95%. That's a 5% variance. Chimpanzees on every one of these tests, on this 12S test, should come back 99%. And it came back 95%, which, if you understand the way the separation is, you get you get human beings, chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans, which are 5% out. Orangutans being the furthest of the large primate species away from human beings. So again, the scale goes like this: orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and then humans are over here. So being 5% on this test, the geneticists that I spoke to nearly hung up the phone on me. How could you have 4 tests, 3 showing Homo sapien and 1 chimpanzee proving again that the sample is not contaminated? How could you have a 5th test showing 95%? It's impossible. Every geneticist I've talked to, and again, I might be talking out of my ass here, but if these bloody geneticists, and boy, they've been the most difficult group to deal with. Todd Standing won't have anything to do with me. He was talking to me in the beginning, and I was working out some good stuff with him, and suddenly he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Probably one of the bloody haters got to him. Thanks, asshole, because you're just damaging research. You're damaging this study moving forward when you start, all the crap and garbage that these idiot haters talk about. It just drives me nuts. We're going to talk about that a little later. But anyways, the geneticists are all 95% is not possible. Okay, so it happened. The sample's not contaminated. Why is there a 5% variance when it comes to chimpanzees? Again, on a test that must show 1% variance. They used the 16S sequence of a chimpanzee. There are strands of chimpanzee DNA that can be 2% out, 3%, 4% out. 5% would be so extremely rare, it's ridiculous. But there are those genes. But all these sequences that they're testing to Homo sapiens all must show 99%. It's a fact. It must show 99%. If it doesn't show 99%, then this DNA strand actually cannot be Homo sapien, because Homo sapiens are 1% off on these tests. Well, sit down for a second, because the next test is where they just basically hung up the phone on me, because the third test for chimpanzee was 85%, and there's no such possibility that human beings, Homo sapiens, can test 15% away from a chimpanzee, especially the HV1 mitochondrial sequence, which, anyways, all the studies and all the research I've done into it. So now what you have is, you have 4 tests that show Homo sapien and 2 tests that show some unknown species. And I have an explanation for this. It's actually, this test was amazing, and I was very happy to have it done, because let's say the space between chimpanzees, bonobos, let's just say chimpanzees and human beings are very closely related. It's very well accepted, they're 99%. And then you get gorillas and orangutans, and it just goes off the scale. But Charles Darwin, how long ago was Charles Darwin around? It's been a long time. The man, way back in the day when he was proving evolution existed, and all the crap and garbage that he went through with the haters and all the difficulty he had, that I can on many levels relate to. He made a prediction that we didn't even prove until late 1990s. He said that we would have more in common with the African apes genetically than the Asian apes, which is the orangutans. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And how did he know this? Well, because he saw the similarities in the phenotypes and behavior and the way the African primates would have migrated to where Homo sapiens and human beings started to evolve. But anyways, there's many reasons he thought this, and I've studied a lot of this. I've done a lot of research into it, and based on Charles Darwin's brilliance and what we know about Sasquatch, I'm going to say something that's going to come to pass to be absolutely true. Is not only do we have more in common with Sasquatch than we do with any other species, because we've all sort of evolved for that in a very similar way, but most importantly, people were always saying, okay, chimpanzees and human beings, right? This is the scale. Gorillas, orangutans. But everybody was like, well, Sasquatch is going to be in here. And they're not. They're over here. Right? So you're going to have chimpanzees over here, human beings here, and Sasquatch further down the track. Sasquatch are going to be less related to the African primates and less related to the orangutans than even we are. So, and there's so much significance in this. It's incredible. My God, I wish there was a geneticist with the intestinal fortitude to come and start working on this and doing this, because this is incredible, amazing information. This is immensely important. And when you really start thinking about the reality of this, it's with me, when I really had, like, it's so hard when you're out there and you're studying the species and all these amazing things that they do and how exceptionally brilliant and awesome they are. It's always such a hard pill to swallow. It's always been a hard pill to swallow. Seeing a Sasquatch perform athletic things that I could never have dreamed of, the way they can climb, the way they can push over huge, enormous trees, the way they can move at night in pitch black, it's just totally, absolutely mind-boggling. But you have to accept the reality of what they can do. When I was out with Les Stroud in episode 1, in season 1 of Survivor Man Bigfoot in Radium, when he heard a Sasquatch, first we heard it picked up a rock, and it knocked until it woke us up. It knew we were sleeping. Trust me. You can tell when Les Stroud and I am sleeping. But anyways, he did that. But most importantly, if you listen to what Les Stroud said, and I was awake, I woke up when I heard Les talking to the Sasquatch, going, he was doing things exactly as I trained him, being absolutely perfect. What a incredible teacher he is, and he is a spectacular student. Man, he knows how to pay attention and listen. He is a very brilliant man. So he was interacting with the Sasquatch very appropriately, the way I told him, I've taught him to. It's hard for me to say that because I've learned so much from Survivor Man, but I hope I've taught him things as well. But anyways, the most important thing after that rock knock, and there was a Sasquatch there. We found the rock, we found a Bigfoot track right where that sound was the next morning, but the most important thing that people take for granted is he heard a whew down, it's the side of a mountain. There are trees everywhere, there's grass, there's shrubs. He didn't hear boom, 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 boom. He heard whew in dead silence. Okay, that was a Sasquatch. I don't know how to tell you any other way. It's pitch black. It's dark. It's the side of a mountain. It's middle of nowhere wilderness. How can you, in pitch black, navigate off the side of a mountain where there's cliffs everywhere, there's tree everywhere, there's sticks in the ground, there's grass, and it's nice, it's very, very silent. And he didn't hear boom, 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 and he heard crash, crash, bang, bang. No, in pitch black, he heard the whipping sound of a creature going whoo. I heard it too. I've heard it before. I don't know how an animal could move dead silent through the wilderness with being a large Sasquatch that it was a 15.5-inch track. I know the individual. But it happened. It's real. And you've got to move on from there. You've got to understand Sasquatch can see at night. Sasquatch move incredibly silent for an enormous primate through the wilderness. They do all these things. This is an accepted fact. The fact that they have the fact that this DNA exists, you sit down, you think about it, and you actually, usually in the end, with this, it just makes sense. A Sasquatch is literally a bipedal primate, like us, that can actually survive perfectly in one of the harshest environments in the world. Gorillas, orangutans, and chimpanzees are tough, and they're survivors. You put them in North America, they're dead in a week. You take the toughest SOB in the world, Survivor Man, and you put him out naked in the wilderness with no tools, and he has to survive without technology, he is not going to survive. I guarantee that. The first thing a human being is going to do is find ways to make sticks and rods and hunt and protect himself and put skins all over his body. The Sasquatch do none of that. So what does that tell me? Actually, as much as I don't like to say this, and this might offend people, they're a better evolved primate that survives in the North American wilderness. Even the First Nations people, who are amazing, and I have the utmost respect to them. They had fire, which is technology. They lived in teepees. They used bows and arrows and spears. They had technology. They did not survive the way Sasquatch survives. So what I'm trying to say is they're a better evolved bipedal primate. And I'm saying physically. Don't know about intelligence. Actually, I do have a great deal of knowledge about their intelligence, but just long story short, they're certainly going to meet the requirements of sentience that they have been in debate with other primates about. Putting gorillas and chimpanzees that could possibly be a sentient species in zoos might be unethical. This species, there'll be no doubt. In fact, that's why I don't like calling them a troop. I prefer to call them a tribe because I think they're at that level. So anyway, that's the DNA. So where do we go from here? Okay, so something else I want to talk about too is a piece of the success that I've had training with preparation, going out into the wilderness, and really the great thing about Sasquatch, and one of the really exciting things about making this discovery come into a reality, is I think people have really gone away from the wilderness. And it's, you know, we've gone to GMO with chemicals in our food, and I think people are really coming back to organic. I think people are really coming back to you know, nature and natural stuff. And I think Sasquatch is going to help us move in that direction, which is really exciting. But anyways, so I use products from a company called doTERRA, and they are absolutely when it comes to moving back to non-chemicals, when it comes back to being organic, when it comes back to the natural state of things, this company has been absolutely enormous with me, and their products are amazing. My ghillie suit, before I go out, I always take my ghillie suit and keep it away from humans. I never bring it in the house. I always leave it outside, hanging in the wind. But I use Douglas fir on it. This is a natural organic oil that's just absolutely amazing. And when I get injuries, I put these oils on my body to help heal them. I take vitamins, I take energy supplements. These oils have been absolutely amazing, and I consider them to be an integral part of the work that I do, going back to nature, immersing myself in nature. These products are so pure and natural that you can consume them, which I do, and really immerse yourself in these essential oils, these essential oils are plant-based, and they really bring us back to nature. Again, Sasquatch brings us back to nature, and funny that I find that. But anyways, these oils are amazing and fantastic. If you want to learn more about them, I just couldn't recommend them higher. It's a new wave thing that's going on right now, and it actually it can generate an income for you as well, so you can do good and have these incredible things happen to you, have these oils that help you, and make the world a better place. So I'm very proud to have them in my life. I'll have a link up on the screen where you can learn more about them. So the next topic that we're going into is digital thermal pixelization. Wow. So a lot of people don't know this, but I did some work with Adrian Erickson. He bought some of my videos, and we had a bit of a relationship. Then the haters came out, and when he started talking about him working with me, the haters came out like crazy, and he didn't really feel like dealing with the pressure, like a lot of people don't. and I don't blame them. But anyways, he kind of kept it hush-hush, but I did a lot of work with him. I met with him. My Sasquatch videos were going to be in his documentary, and nothing of that came to fruition, which is very unfortunate. However, one of the reasons he was very excited about working with me is after I came back from Video 4 expedition, there's some photographs, digital photographs that I took of Sasquatch. They've taken a lot of heat, but I didn't mind putting them out there. Again, just shortly, if you see those Video 4 photographs, a lot of people are bashing them and knocking them. Whatever, I'm not worried about it. Those are real Sasquatch, and I have absolutely no doubt about it. The photographs that I took, the still photographs, was a camera I had no experience with. It was a backup camera that you should always take with you, and I had reason to use it. Unfortunately, it was actually a camera I was going to use for nighttime, because my camera that I am an expert with using was absolutely garbage at night. So I had it all set up for night, and when when water was dripping down and splattered on my camera, I just dropped my camera. There's a Sasquatch there, and I went to take photographs with this digital camera, and it was set for nighttime in direct sunlight. And if you're a photographer, or you even can just imagine for a second what happens when you have a camera that's set for low light and you take photographs in direct sunlight, the photographs look terrible. The color is right off, and it's terrible. But the video images that look excellent and are the true color of that Sasquatch that I saw with my naked eyes, that's actually what the Sasquatch colors were. That's what the fur looked like. That's what the skin looked like. So I really try to focus on those, because the other ones are really, they've got that orangey tinge to them, and it just can't be repaired. It just, you can't take if you know anything about photography, the sun is brighter than any light you could put. It's like a spotlight. It's terribly, terribly bright. Look at the sun, for God's sake, and you can know. So taking photographs with a camera that is set for low light in direct sunlight was... anyways, the point of all this, though, is somebody from these scientists from Duke University gave me a call and said, we saw these photographs, and they actually fit a criteria that we're looking for. They're doing something. This is back in 2010. They were working on something called digital thermal pixelization, identification. So I only have this information because I wrote it down from the conversation that I had with him. He's never sent me any emails, and I don't have any more information about it yet. But what this is it's basically the fingerprinting of the thermal image of your face, where you can identify individuals. So they were trying to sell this technology to somebody that, maybe a government, or use it to identify individuals on camera. But the problem with it is that you needed temperature sources, and you need light that bended at a certain frequency. Well, one light source that they're very, very familiar with is the light of the sun, and they can get two temperatures based on something that's refracting like a piece of wood, which was in my Video 4 stuff, the Sasquatch. So there's wood that they can get a temperature from, and a piece of snow. There was snow that was also getting direct sunlight on it. So they took those and managed to get a digital thermal pixelization fingerprint of the Video 4 Sasquatch. And what was so exciting was he paid me money and gave me some money to be able to use that in his demo reel to show whatever government agencies he was dealing with. And what was so exciting is the technology exists to prove beyond any doubt that my Sasquatch videos are real, because they're digital and they can thermalize them, especially Video 4, because there's that snow there. And when I talked to him, and after he had his results, the reason he was contacting me and paying me for this is because the face fingerprinted perfectly. And I was on the phone begging this guy, please, let's do something with this information, let's get it out there. But I mean, there's really, these guys from Duke University are, they probably sold the technology for millions of dollars. And anyways, I know that technology's out there. If it's a mask, which it can't even be a mask. I don't even know what people think it is, but it's a Sasquatch face. And if that Sasquatch face is thermally shows temperatures for eyes, temperature for skin, temperature for mouth, temperature in foreheads, if it has those qualities, it can't be a mask. It can't be. So it probably will never be enough proof, but it'll certainly, I mean, it's almost like getting a DNA sample with these photographs, which I didn't get, but really can't be faked at that point. So Adrian was really excited about this, and so was I. But this was in, again, 2009, so that's 8 years ago. But anyways, about a year and a half ago, an investigator called me, a professional investigator called me, and that technology that these guys do is being implemented in a certain government organization that I promised I wouldn't talk about, but that's not what's important. What's important is, and anybody can see this information. He called me and he said, "Look, have you ever been really investigated?" And I said, "Well, I don't think so. I mean, what do you mean by investigation?" Had somebody, like, this man is a professional investigator. He does it for a living. He knows how to investigate things. And he said he would like to investigate me because he was astounded and had knowledge of this digital thermal pixelization identification photograph of the Sasquatch. He was blown away because Sasquatch can't exist. And yet, these guys from Duke University who he works with, who are colleagues of his now, say it can't be faked. There's no way. Each image was perfectly thermalized in a fingerprint of the face, amazingly and impressed. So anyways, he's astounded by this, and he asked to investigate me. So he asked for a few different criteria, one of which was unlimited access to my email. So I gave him the stuff. I've always been very transparent in people that have asked me for information, and having a professional investigator is always going to be of great assistance to me. He's given me lots of advice, but he found something out that was really interesting. And this is something that you'll find true in an investigation is people's true colors will shine through if you give them the opportunity. And so I'm gonna read this directly from what he sent to me. So he went through all my emails, checked my phone numbers, people I've been calling, did all kinds of investigations on me, and he found this fact that I've been very transparent, extremely transparent with my video footage and with my stuff. I put it all out there. I put raw photographs out there. I've gotten a lot of heat from that. People taking, like, for example, what I call meatheads, take a piece of information and twist it and turn around. Like someone saw that the camera that was set to low light took those photographs, and without any information, meathead went and said, well, obviously this Sasquatch footage was shot indoors. I didn't know how to respond to that because I'm Canadian, I live out in the mountains. Why the hell would I do indoor? What? And he said the snow was fake and that it was behind glass. These are the stupidest crap. But what's very interesting is that, and I've had hundreds of stories done on me, from CNN to BBC to the National Post to Fox to you name it. I've been on hundreds of radio shows and newspapers and broadcasters. Every time I dealt with them, what's really interesting is I gave them footage. I gave CNN footage, raw footage. I gave the BBC footage. These people are film experts. CTV News here in Canada, Global News, I gave them all the footage. Here is the raw bloody footage, have a look at it with no fear. So again, showing a great deal of transparency, a great deal of confidence in somebody who's alleged to be a hoaxer. And every time a professional journalist did an interview with me, what did he say here exactly? All those who asked for permission or requested an interview were either very impartial, professional, and objective while expressing a very open-minded perspective, which in layman's terms, the stories were great. They were impartial, they were objective, they were honest, and very entertaining, and every professional journalism story that's ever been done on me was just fantastic, and I was always very happy with it. Even when they talk about the potential that I am a hoaxer, that I am faking it, of course they have to do that because most people are going to be on that page. But the interviews in the end, where people were always, again, I'll use that term, immensely impressed with me. So, but understand this is the other side of the coin, is all those who stole my images and used them without permission. So, and this really pisses me off too, in that people will use, they'll quote the United States law or some copyright law that they have the right to show my. No, you don't have the right to show my photographs. You don't, you chump. You stole them, and you're using them without my permission. I risked my bloody life to take those photographs. You did not have permission to use them. Again, all you had to do, you spineless cockroach, was ask me. But no, a spineless thief that you are, you stole my photographs, you stole these images from me, and then what happened? 100% of the time, these people who stole my image, who are just little wimpy bitches, did a very 100% negative story on me. Big shocker, a thief who steals, a hater in a lot of cases, who stole this stuff from me, did a very, very negative story. Now, but from an investigative perspective though, this is very important, is as an investigator, if you don't talk to the primary witness, or at least attempt to interview the primary witness, or in this case, the sole witness, in anybody's opinion, and this, you don't have to be an investigator to figure this out, you are, the term, I love the term, grossly incompetent. All the people that stole footage from me, that have stole pictures, that have all their little crappy excuses, and I can sue you all, except I won't waste money on a lawyer when I could be using that money to go out and do my investigations. So I have to sit there and take this crap from all these people stealing the images from me. But every single one of them, without exception, actually all of them, have never even attempted, never sent me an email request for an interview. And if you are doing an investigation, which is what they claim to be doing, and you don't even attempt to interview imagine you're in a murder case, and there's a witness, a primary witness, and as the investigator, you don't even attempt, like it'd be different if I was hiding, or if I was, if I wasn't talking to you. No, they never attempted to even interview me. Grossly, I love it, grossly, I'll say it one more time, grossly incompetent investigations. You all should be ashamed of yourself. It's pathetic. You didn't even try to investigate me. There was one exception of a meathead who had all these ridiculously stupid, saying that I named Sylvanek after my mom. Oh my God, all this, because if I name Sylvanek after my mom, whose name is Sylvia, that proves I'm a hoaxer. And that's this little key that you'll hear out there. He's a proven hoaxer. And then ask, how is he proven? Well, his mother's name is Sylvia, and Sylvanek is named after his mom. And? That proves he's a hoaxer. I think that proves he loves his mom, which is all bullshit. I never named this freaking area. I'm actually going to show Jeff Meldrum. I want to do this on my radio show with Jeff Meldrum. I'm actually going to show him Sylvanek. It's on the goddamn Google map. Chumps. But what do you expect from grossly incompetent investigators? Which every single person that stole, when somebody's got a review of me, ask them. First of all, did you steal those photographs? Because Todd gives those things away. Gave them to CNN, BBC, the biggest names in the world, National Post, Fox. They have raw copies given to them. Here you go, raw. Have a good day. First interview I ever did, I was giving out raw Sasquatch footage to CTV News and to CNN and BBC. Raw. I was unafraid. I've given it to little internet guys who call me and interview me. There was one Sasquatch show that I was on that interviewed me, and I gave him everything. Here you go, man. Have a look. I have nothing to fear. I have everything to gain. I could learn something new about it. I have learned much from the different people that have analyzed my footage. But this one particular person requested to interview me years after he'd said the stupidest crap. Like, oh my God. I don't even give this guy a second thought, but he asked me why I didn't do that interview. That was the one interview I declined. And I didn't decline, I just ignored it. I told him because this guy is like, wow. So that one person come back and go, I'm trying to get an interview with him. What, after you'd already stolen stuff from me? After you'd already lied about stuff? After you're telling people I'm a proven hoaxer? Which is always out there, he's a proven hoaxer. Oh, well, if I'm a proven hoaxer, again, I've taken over a dozen people out with me, every single one of them immensely impressed, at the very least. And 3 that are public, and guess what? All 3 of them coming on my radio show, coming and doing interviews. Wonder why that is. Took him out in the wilderness. Stroud, Jeff Meldrum, Professor, John Bitternagel, you know, and all the other people that I've worked with. So people that have been out in the wilderness with me, there's nothing but pure, raw, unadulterated Sasquatch behavior, Sasquatch interactions, and that's it. And you know, and what Jeff and Jeff Meldrum has been. He's such a good man. It actually, one of the most things that hurts me is I think so highly of Jeff Meldrum and what he's been through and the evidence that he's gathered. I'm so impressed with him. And John Mentor is a wonderful, wonderful man. He's a mentor of mine. I idolize the guy. And to be accused of lying to them, I don't know how. Being accused of lying to your mentor, being accused to lying to people that you really admire and respect, and they have to take it, and they go to talk about it, and they can't even really mention me, and it's after all the hard work and everything I've put into everything, it's awful, and it's just the way it is. I was fortunate enough to meet a great man, and I didn't know he was going to be a great man. This is something I should talk about too, is the Patterson Gimlin footage. I met Bob Gimlin, and he was at the Sasquatch Summit, and all the Bigfoot community was there. And I was out there trying to, I was doing a species protection. I didn't have anything to sell. I just wanted I had a goal to do things, and I took some big risks, and you know, it didn't work out so great. I was hoping to get more support, but anyways, so I met him at the Sasquatch Summit, and he comes up to me, and he's got a look on his face. He comes up and he walks up to me and he says, you know what? All these people here, all these people are trying to tell me that you're a faker, that you're a liar, that you're a hoaxer, and that your footage isn't real. And I saw your Sasquatch footage. And let me tell you something, I've seen a Sasquatch. And nobody here in this whole room, and he looked over at Jeff Meldrum, who was there, he looked over at John Bitternagel, says, they don't understand what you're going through the way I do. I understand. And he says, I've seen your footage, I've seen a Sasquatch, and Bob Gimlin said, and I know your footage is real, and I believe you. And I was standing there going, well, wow, this is really cool. I never thought I'd meet you, and I'm not so sure about the Patterson Gimlin footage. I'd like to have, I have a few questions for you. And they said, stop. I believe you, and I know what you're going through. I really know it, because I was there. These people that are trying to turn me against you, they called me a liar. They called me a hoaxer. I had so much trouble. I got kicked out of my bank. I had bar fights with people. I nearly got a divorce from my wife because I refused to say anything other than the truth. And I know what you're going through. I know it. And I was like, well, thanks. He goes, no. And he looked me in the eye, and he could see that there's, you know, it's not so easy to stand there and be called a liar and listen to all these people conniving against you. I'm there with my son. I'm there with Les Stroud and John Bitternagel and all these great men. But it's still, it's not a good feeling to tell the truth and be called a liar. And he gave me a hug, and man, that guy, what a powerful, he's just, you know, he's a powerful little man, amazing, with incredible experiences. I went to the Sasquatch Summit, and that's what I went there for. That was what I walked away with all the stuff that was going on. It was having met the great Bob Gimlin. What a cool, amazing, wonderful, wonderful man. I wish I could go and meet him more. I would love to take that guy out and show him a Sasquatch and have him interact with the Sasquatch and stuff, but he's not as young as he used to be, although he's spry as hell. And wow, I just admire the heck out of that guy. But anyways, it was nice to meet somebody who really understands, who has a clear Sasquatch video, and is called a liar and a hoaxer. And for years I've been looking at the Patterson film, and I've really had my doubts, because there are people out there that have some pretty convincing evidence to it being non-authentic. Well, when I met Bob Gimlin, and after he's been interviewed, oh my God, so many times about the Sasquatch footage, and I talked to my colleague Jeff Meldrum, and he had some stuff to show me about the tracks that really put me to, I cannot see the Patterson Gimlin footage being a hoax whatsoever. They cast tracks that day. The tracks show the same, all the appropriate characteristics that we know about today about Sasquatch, and especially what my team and I have unearthed about Sasquatch, and in the field, what I've studied, when I see, hey, there's a Sasquatch trackway, that it exhibited all the characteristics 100%. I don't know how he could have possibly known that or hoaxed that. I have no idea. But I only had 2 questions for him. And the first question I asked him, he said, wow, nobody's ever asked me that. And then Bob Gimlin, without missing a beat, without turning away or thinking about it, looked me straight in the eye and answered that question. And at that point, I was convinced he'd actually seen a Sasquatch. I had one more question for him, and he answered that question too. These are only questions I'll ever ask in private to people when it's important, and I've been waiting a long time to ask Bob Gimlin or Roger Patterson, who's passed away, that question. And as far as I'm concerned, I just cannot, it's virtually impossible for them to have hoaxed that. What an incredible piece of footage, and the evidence is tremendously in favor of it's beyond a reasonable doubt that that footage is real. And I do have to say I'm 99% convinced that it's real, logically and impartially, and in my heart. After meeting Bob Gimlin, why would you go through all that? That man, Patterson, passed away saying that his footage is real, and I believe that Bob Gimlin will go to his grave saying forever that that footage is real, because that's the truth, and I'm very convinced of that. So, speaking of the Patterson film, that does lead me to my next subject right now. So I'll be doing with the DNA that I've done. I am doing I'm doing some DNA expeditions this year. That's really my focus for the spring of 2017. It's going to be expensive to have my DNA tested. I will eventually be able to pay for it. But if you'd like to support this cause, I have a donation button that'll be up. And if you can give to that, what it'll do is it'll allow me to go on my expeditions that I will be doing that are, again, very costly. I have to take time off. I actually have a job just like a regular guy. I go to work every day, and I have to pay for all this stuff myself. And time is of the essence, as you'll find out in the next couple months with what I'm doing right now. Everything is very expensive. So in the meantime, if you give, there'll be, again, a private DNA video that'll talk about more about what we're doing with the DNA. But I have an expedition to do into a cave that I have to rock climb up to. It'll take me a great deal of time to get there. It's on native land. I have permission. Oh my God, the natives have come back to me. I'm so grateful for that. And it just shortly, first I'll explain. So the DNA is on native land. I have permission from the natives to go back in there. There's a cave that in 2013, Sasquatch were sleeping in, that spent the winter in that cave. I'm virtually certain of it. And I was up in that cave, and I gathered some Sasquatch DNA that I no longer have. But again, somebody, I don't want to make this into a conspiracy. I just don't have it. But I can go back there and get another sample. And so the odds of me being successful with this DNA are enormous. I'd say the chances of me coming back with Sasquatch DNA on this expedition that's going to take me a great deal of time. I got to buy equipment for rock climbing. I've got to be able to get out there, take the time off, all the things that come with expeditions that are very expensive. Get out there, get that done. So I'll go gather that DNA on native land, and with permission. Just me have permission. It took me a long time to get permission. And I intend to come back and then pay for that DNA to be analyzed. If the DNA comes back and it's matching the analysis as before, even right across the board, 95% and 85% with all 100% on the Homo sapiens side, then I'll be able to conclusively say that that is what Sasquatch DNA is. And I also will keep with what I had from the hair that I gathered with Stroud. I don't have that hair anymore. At this particular cave, there's a lot of hair. I'll be able to come back with a significant amount of hair, and I'll be able to toss it around and really put it out there. But paying for the DNA sequence is going to be very expensive. If you'd like to give, I would really appreciate that kind of donations. I'm going to get it done one way or another. It's just a matter of, is it going to take me a year to save up to pay for it, or am I going to get it done the next 2 months, which will be imperative because we are gathering right now all the evidence we can get to us. I've spoken to Jimmy Chilcott, the fingerprint expert. I've spoken to Doug Hasek, who did Sasquatch Meets Science. I've spoken to very prominent individuals that have seen Sasquatch and are willing to swear in front of a justice of the peace, because I'm taking those statements now. If you have seen a Sasquatch and you have had a very profound, a vivid, clear sighting of a Sasquatch, and you are absolutely certain, and you would swear to it in front of a justice of the peace that you've seen a Sasquatch, then you need to contact me. So, the email address, let's do, I'll just put it down at the bottom. Or you won't be able to contact me on Facebook. Facebook is very difficult. I get many emails on there. But anyways, I'll have an email address. If you're very serious about it, I'm very serious about gathering evidence. I'm gathering all evidence to me right now. That's why this DNA is so important. And so there it is. Right now, the donation button, if you go to my YouTube page, you go to my, even just Google, put in YouTube, Todd Standing. Lots of haters on there that have all never even attempted to interview me and that have stolen. Again, we talked about that already, didn't we? But all those haters, all those videos fall into those categories. They're 100% biased to the negative, most times hatred, and they're, oh, I love it, and I'll say it again, grossly incompetent. Besides being thieves, they're grossly incompetent in their investigations. So I don't sweat it. But anyways, go to that. You'll see it's a Sylvanic Bigfoot YouTube page. Go to the YouTube page. There'll be a little donation button there, or maybe there's a donation button at the bottom. Like I said, I'm having lots of trouble with different tech things, building a website and all that kind of stuff. It's again, all this stuff, all this research, all the stuff that I do costs a tremendous amount of money. If you want to help support us, I would really appreciate that. So give a donation if you can. So we're gathering evidence. So going back a few steps, I mentioned that I got back onto native land. It's very difficult to get permission to work on native land. It's been difficult for me. Native people are very protective of their lands, and rightly so. And if they have Sasquatch on their lands, look at the names. Boss of the Mountain, Shadow Guardian, all the wild master of the wilderness. Usually the term that native languages use to identify a Sasquatch are really profound. And on this reserve in particular, they called Sasquatch Big Brothers. So was the native translation. Anyway, it's quite a bit of work, and I'm willing to go through their trials and tribulations. And I had that success on this particular reserve, and I was doing some really great Sasquatch research on this reserve, and then I lost it because, again, all the garbage and crap out there about Todd got scared off by a Sasquatch, or Todd's a frick hell. Have you watched my goddamn videos? Like, I'm freaking staring down a Sasquatch, and every one of those videos that I do doesn't end with me running off. It ends with me moving forward, pushing for more evidence, and doing everything I can. The stuff that I have to go through is freaking wow. The stuff, grizzly bears, hunting, stalk. Every day I go out in the wilderness. A mountain lion, a black bear, or a grizzly bear decides whether or not they're going to try to hunt and kill me. I have nothing to do with it. And understand vividly in your mind, when you're scared of monsters, there's a reason for that. Grizzly bears will tear you apart. Black bears will eat you alive. Like, mountain lions will rip you limb from limb. They're huge, giant lions that live in the mountains. They'll kill you. This is what I deal with. So, there's a lot of intestinal fortitude in what I do. Listen to Survivor Man on the episodes when he talks about me, like, man, without a high degree of survival ability and skill, do not attempt to do this. Without a high degree of skill and knowledge of the wilderness, do not attempt to go out into the wilderness. My God, the crap I used to do. Insane, and believe me, I've suffered for it. But anyways, getting back to the point, so I earned the respect of this particular native tribe. There was two places, my original Sylvanic research site that was named Sylvanic. The natives, just a lot of other stuff happened. Some Texas guys showed up with rifles to go hunt a Sasquatch, and it really had nothing to do with me, but they just decided to just tell everybody no and stay out. And there was one elder that was really upset with me, and just didn't even want to hear what I had to say. But anyways, that elder has unfortunately passed on. I hope he rests in peace. But his the person who's taken over his position has granted me access to my original research site, which is very exciting, which has to do with one of the big announcements coming up. But anyways, this particular research site that was in Canada, that I got, a lot of work and a lot of stuff went into me getting accepted there. I got accepted into there, and the reason they kicked me out again was, what happened was, this is really cool. So I had a DV tape that I was recording with, and I got into a really good position where this Sasquatch had come along, and it was a she, and I'll tell you why I know it was a she in a minute. She had moved into a position and picked up my presence and froze. And those DV tapes only last an hour, and I was there in a standoff with her. I must have had 50 minutes on that tape. So I went the whole length of the tape, man. We were in a standoff. She was not moving, I was not moving, and so we had that long standoff, and at the end of 50 minutes, what did I do? I hit stop on the recording device, and I was going to rewind the tape just a bit, and then, continue on this standoff. But when I hit the rewind button, it went like that, and she heard it, and oh my God, she let out a blood-curdling scream. I mean, I felt it in my bones, like the earth rattled. I never heard anything like it. I actually dropped my camera and plugged my ears like that, and she ran right to the reserve, screaming like that. So half the reserve at least heard the scream, and the next day, my gosh, Sasquatch were banging on people's houses and smashing things and throwing rocks. Of course, I admitted about what had happened, that it was my standoff with the Sasquatch that had caused that. I was the one that caused the scream, and immediately I got the punt, right? Out you go. Which was really frustrating because it was so much time and effort and money that was spent doing that research, getting everything into a position where I could potentially film a Sasquatch, and so it all fell apart. But anyways, they've forgiven me as well, thankfully, and actually, but I'm not gonna, I've got permission to go into a particular region of their reserve and just get the hair, and I've explained this to the elders. There's actually probably the best tracker I've ever seen in my life, who's a colleague of mine, who has incredible, amazing Sasquatch stories. The man who, if I ever go missing, the one man who could go and find me, the one man who could go and figure out where I am, this tracker, who is incredible and amazing, knows where there's a cave that he's shown me years and years ago, and the Sasquatch aren't there anymore. For 3 years, they haven't been in this cave, for 3 winters, and so I have full permission this spring to go back to that cave. So that's the DNA expedition, is to go into that cave where I'm certain there's Sasquatch hairs, and there'll be Sasquatch evidence. So if you give a donation, you'll be helping pay for that DNA to get analyzed. You'll be helping pay for the expedition and the work that I have to do, and just even the probability of my success, I think it's 90% that I'll go out there and come back with appropriate Sasquatch DNA and have success, which is saying a lot for an expedition of this magnitude. If you know about expeditions, about how many things can go wrong, I'm very confident that when I get out there, I'll have success. So, and it all goes back to the gathering of evidence, substantiating with the DNA. If you've had a sighting, contact me. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bigfoot North. I appreciate your continued support for those of you who are supporting me, and there'll be lots of interesting stuff and a lot more to come on Bigfoot North. Again, Jeff Meldrum, John Bitternagel, Randy Brisson, Les Stroud, an episode on new stuff where I'll put up a new Sasquatch photograph, and then after the news hits and everything goes public, there'll be an after episode of Bigfoot North, because what I'm moving forward with, I'm not gonna lie, I have a funny feeling that it's gonna be really, really, really big news. Huge news, enormous. So let's gather some evidence, let's work on this DNA. If you can help out financially, I certainly would appreciate it. It'll help things move forward quickly, but make no doubts about it, I am moving forward with this. If I have to finance it myself, which I've done in the past, I will be continuing to move forward with evidence and proof. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time, and in about a week, maybe a week and a half. I think the first show will be with the amazing and magnificent Professor Jeff Meldrum. I look forward to it, and we'll just catch up with you then. Until then, take care.